Salisbury Plain in Wiltshire is 300 square miles of chalk grassland. And when you're here, it's very easy to feel that you are the only person in the world. The reality is, this is land which is always watched over. Firstly, by the ancient stone circle of Stonehenge, also by the many army personnel who do military training here. And the reason that I'm here, for 85 years, this land has been watched over by a herd of Longhorn cattle. And the person tasked with looking after them right now is stock person Elise Sutton, who is giving me a tour of Cherry Lodge Farm. Before we head out and see the bulls, what happens if there is military activity, if a helicopter flies over? How do they tend to respond?
In all fairness, they're pretty used to it because they've been here for so long now. They get used to the low-flying military aircraft, and they come within, 20 feet of the field, and the longhorns and the sheep barely bat an eyelid. So they're quite used to it, actually.
It's just one of those things, part of being here on the plain.
Yeah, exactly. We've got to be accommodating for the military with their exercises, and farming's got to happen at the same time.
What is it like to farm in this particular landscape?
It's a pretty spectacular landscape because there's nothing really like this in the UK. It's a very sort of specific area, the Salisbury Plain. Some of our fields have never been ploughed up, so we're talking sort of thousands of years. The whole area of Salisbury Plain is a special area of conservation because of the amount of flora and fauna that's here, and there's quite a large number of orchids that are only really found in this sort of area on chalk grassland, and a lot of the orchid populations, their stronghold is here. So a lot of the farmers and the graziers play a big part in actually conserving those species. Farming them and grazing the chalk grassland is the only way we can really manage them.
And we can hear, we're very quiet, some chomping in the background. Such a lovely sound. Who's this?
So this is Stoke Wasabi. So he is a fully organic and pasture-fed bull. He's an incredibly low input bull, and we've had some lovely, thrifty, good-sized calves off him.
His nickname's Barbie, is that right?
Yeah.
He doesn't look like a Barbie to me.
No. His nickname is Barbie because his mum is Rhubarb and her nickname was Barbs and Babs. A little dynamic duo of Barbs and Babs. Bless him.
We've come out today and it is a glorious, cold, frosty, sparkling winter's morning. And here on the plain, they just fit, don't they? They look, especially because he's in his winter coat, it just seems to fit the landscape so beautifully.
They do. The Longhorns here with the Stoke herd have been here since the early 30s. So actually, there's been decades and decades of breeding, and we very much have bred a type of cow that has worked. And those genetics actually are becoming more sought after because the amount of conservation grazing projects, rewilding projects that everyone sort of hears that the Longhorn does so incredibly well. It's not all my breeding, it's taken many generations to do, but I've played my little part since I've been here for 5 years. So
I love their faces and the fact that at this time of the year they're slightly fluffier, aren't they? They've almost got little curls on their noses.
Yeah, I love when they get into their winter coat. The bulls never seem to go as shaggy as early as the cows do, but they do get a beautiful curly head, a real kind of bullish looking head.
What's Roy like?
Roy's not too bad. He's Longhorn in general are an incredibly quiet breed and incredibly docile, and that's one of the reasons we've got them, is because we are open access. We needed a breed that was just going to be quiet, happy with people being around and dogs and everything else.
And the horns really vary, don't they? The shape and the size and the look of them.
So the horns are an interesting thing to look at because some of them with the bigger shaped horns, they're great for sort of helping us with scrub encroachment and taking down trees and mullering anthills and things like that. They do a good job of sort of creating sort of natural processes by having the horns, and it's one of the reasons the Longhorns have been picked for sort of rewilding projects because they are very similar with the horns to what bison and our native auroch would have done. So they're fulfilling those little ecosystem processes.
Well, your quad bikes are out and about already, aren't they? So you've got some movement going on today.
Yeah, they're going to go move the sheep and then we're going to move some cows on to the next sort of paddock of grazing, and they'll be there to get the next block of grass down.
So where are we off to now?
We've just headed out onto the Triple SI part of the farm, so Site of Special Scientific Interest. So this is what the Longhorns are grazing, all year round. And we're going to go have a look at them, give them their sort of daily checks. This is the big group of cows and calves. So there's anything from 16-year-old cows in here to 6-month-old calves.
Tell me how and why you first became connected to the Longhorns. Why Longhorns? Where did that come from?
So my love for Longhorns actually started when I was at university. So I went to Harper Adams and did countryside management. So I wasn't sold on fully doing sort of farming and agriculture at that point. I found an opportunity with the Wildfowl and Wetlands Trust up in Lancashire, and they had a lovely herd of Longhorns. It was a really interesting site. So it was a big open area of wetland, lots of geese and wading birds and swans, and the reason those were there was because of the cattle and the grazing that they did. So they were an absolute pleasure to work with, and then I sort of got the bug for the Longhorns really. When the job came up with the herd here, I couldn't miss the opportunity not to apply, and ever since my love for Longhorns has just grown crazy. They can be pain and stubborn, don't get me wrong, but they're a fantastic breed.
But as someone who came into farming completely fresh, having not grown up on a farm or not worked on a farm previously, some people would say, right, you've come in at a serious point working with these guys.
Yeah, I think coming in and working with a horn breed definitely can be a little bit daunting, but actually you get to understand them and the way they move with their horns. They're not something to be afraid of, and you just get spatially aware of what they're like with their horns, and because they are such a quirky and quiet breed, it is a pleasure to work with them really.
Also joining us on the plain on this beautiful morning is Debbi Dan, who is the Longhorn Cattle Society Breed Secretary. I know you've been to this farm before, but what do you think about it?
Well, on a day like today, where else would you want to be? And to see the cattle just in their perfect natural landscape is absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
I mean, they scarpered from us. We came up and they were grazing underneath these beautiful trees and within the gorse, and they've dashed off somewhere. But what do you think of this particular herd?
This herd is just an amazing herd for the breed because it's been going for such a long time. I get this visual image of the Stoke herd as sort of being this constant, and other herds come and other herds go, but the Stoke herd is there, and it's like a huge longitudinal study of what the breed can do, how the breed adapts to different methods of farming. Obviously during the war a lot of the land was ploughed up, and they've adapted to farming systems. The different people that have managed them have come in and had their own way of looking at things. But there's this lovely sort of constant line throughout the breed that is the Stoke herd. And it's just a testament to the breed that this herd has gone on for such a long time. Longhorns, their numbers were down in the 1970s where we were down to sort of like hundreds, hardly any left. The Rare Breed Survival Trust did a brilliant job at promoting all those native breeds that were endangered. Numbers have picked up significantly since then, but they are still classified as a breed at risk, so they're not out of the woods completely.
How do you feel about the future of the breed?
We're in a good place going forward, I think, just because people are recognising with all native breeds how good they are for conservation grazing, for regenerative farming, for the methods of farming that people are adopting now to look after the landscape and look after the wildlife and farm with nature. Longhorns are perfect for that. We're never going to be huge, never going to be a huge breed, but it will be a useful, consistent breed.
Yeah. All of this work, do you think it's recreatable on a farm without environmental subsidy? Could this work on a more commercial farm, do you think?
I think there's certainly sort of good practice, isn't there? There's bits of it that people could take away from here and do on their own farms, not replicate it completely, because every farm is different and everybody's motivations are different. But certainly what is going on here, people can learn from and put into practice in areas of their farm that they want to, yeah.
So we just turned a corner and found a little mini mob hiding under the trees and having a little scratch. You won't even know they're here. Tell me about this lot that we're looking at.
So we've got about 35 of our steers. So this are are last year's calves all the way up to sort of 30-month-old steers that are basically here for fattening. So we produce our own beef and sell direct to customers off the farm. So they're a little bit slow to mature here. They are on quite extensive poor grazing, but we also find that the quality of the meat that is produced from them being a slower maturing breed is second to none.
And how do you feel as someone in your mid-20s who is now the next in another, line of people that are looking after this herd with its amazing history?
I do feel like it's a bit of a daunting task, but at the same time it's been a real pleasure to put my stamp on the herd. But yeah, being a new entrant into farming can be quite a scary ordeal, because you don't know where to go, where to begin with actually. And the society's been great because it's been a lovely network of people who will take you under their wing, and there's been a numbers of farmers locally and Longhorn breeders locally that have really helped me out and guided me on what to do and what not to do. And it's exciting, and I trying to inspire the next generation of conservationists and young farmers to get into it and say you can do it, and you don't have to be from a farming background.
And that the two are intrinsically linked. The fact that you could say, if you are a young conservationist or a young farmer, those two things aren't separate. They are inherently connected.
Definitely. It's something that so I do a lot of ambassador work with the Nature Friendly Farming Network, and it's something that we actively promote, is that nature and farming have to go together. You can't be without it. Each side needs each other.
Well, we've had a wonderful morning exploring this corner of Salisbury Plain. This programme was presented and produced by me, Marie Lennon. Now let's head to the BBC Weather Centre for the Farming Today 5-day forecast.